Hi, I'm Brandon,
And I'm Mom.
and welcome back to Tansson TV Plus.
Yes, thank you for joining us again today.
Yeah, so I always love doing this, and month is another first episode Friday.
It sure is. And we are once more tackling the holiday themes. And we are going to talk about Hawkeye today.
Yes, and this series is a part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and this is the first episode we're speaking about, which is titled Never Meet Your Heroes. It debuted November 24th, 2021, and Mom, can you believe it's been that long since we've seen it?
It is so hard to believe.
Yes, and before we get started, I did want to say that we have seen the series.
Yes, we have seen the series, and I will say early, we enjoyed the series.
Yes, and so, but truly, up until this week, the last time we had seen this was 2020. Mom, and Mom, you can go ahead and get started.
All right. And so, what I think I'm going to do is tell you about the top 10 things ish that I learned from the first episode, because I thought the first episode here was very important to the whole series. And so, because it kind of gives a little bit of the history of Hawkeye. But believe it or not, this series does not begin with Hawkeye. It begins with a young lady named Kate. When Kate was young, 10ish or so, she overhears her parents arguing, and after that, her father does come to see her and speaks with her. She's still in the house with her mother also. At the same time, part of the house explodes, and so during the explosion, unfortunately, her father does pass away. But Kate does see Hawkeye, who is fighting at the time as an Avenger, and so she kind of sees him, and she watches him with his bow and arrow, or she sees a little bit from a distance. And so she asked her mother later if she could have a bow and arrow. And this actually begins the series. As I said, it begins with Kate, not necessarily with Hawkeye. And so we learned that Kate is an extremely good person at the bow and arrow. She's also a very good fighter. She's a black belt at age 15. Um, we then switch a little bit to Hawkeye at that point, and Hawkeye, and we go to the present day, which is roughly about 10 years later. And so Hawkeye's with his children and they go see a play. They get to go see an Avengers play, which I thought was kind of funny. And then from there, we learn that Hawkeye does have three children, at least he has three children with him at this time. And he's taking care of them while he's taking care of them because he's taking them out for Christmas, as a Christmas gift to New York. And then we kind of go back to Kate here. Kate is, like I said, is 10 years later. We find out that Kate is still close to her mother, but her mother is going to get remarried. And Kate just finds this out. They attend a party together. And during this party, there's an auction. While they are there, Kate meets a man named Armand, and then Kate's soon-to-be stepfather is there too. Also, another explosion occurs during this auction. Jack, who is the stepfather, who will be the stepfather of Kate, actually takes something called a retractable knife or sword from this auction. He takes that with him, and then there's also the suit that someone named Ronan wore previously. And so Ronan owned both the sword and the suit. Because a lot of fighting occurred during this auction, because like I said, there was an explosion, so things were in disarray. And Kate ends up being the person who puts on the suit. She doesn't know anything about the history of it, and she just goes and she beats people up, basically defending herself and kind of helping other people there. Um, this suit, she doesn't know the ramifications of the suit because a previous assassin did wear the suit, and so people then begin to come after Kate. And then Hawkeye does hear in the news that this suit is out there, and people associate this suit with this gentleman named Ronan, who was an assassin. And so at that time, we don't know about the connection between Ronan and Hawkeye. And and then later on, he goes and he does rescue Kate a little later. And then when he rescues Kate, he's kind of shocked that this this young lady is the one who's actually in the suit and who's actually doing all of this. And it kind of ends just kind of like that. And so I know I kind of told the whole episode. Didn't quite mean to do that, but it's kind of like all needed to in order to understand where the beginning of Hawkeye.
Well, Mom, thank you so much for that.
You are welcome, Brandon.
And yeah, and so as we mentioned before, we had last seen this a few years ago. And so, how much had you remembered, going into this rewatch?
Um, I remembered more than I thought I did. Like I said, of course, Kate stands out as the character, and Hawkeye stood out, as being the father to the three children. Um, and then I remembered at the beginning about Kate's life. Um, I didn't remember exactly when she first met Hawkeye or saw Hawkeye, but I did remember the circumstances at the beginning of the movie in regards to her father. I did remember the explosion. I remembered portions a little bit about the suit and the sword. Um, and then I did not remember exactly Armand. So I did remember quite a bit. How about you, Brandon?
Yeah, I also remember quite a bit. I also didn't really remember about Armand, and in this reviewing, um, a part of me says that Jack and Armand are related. I just don't remember in which capacity.
Yes, and we were trying to figure that out, but in the first episode, they didn't go that far to explain it.
Yeah, like I said, I don't remember, some of the gist of it, and overall, I mean, I remember, like I said, overall what happened in this first episode, but in the same regard, I don't 100% remember how the rest of the series played out, other than some of the things that happened towards the end.
Yeah, that's the same here with me, Brandon. I remembered enough at the beginning, but I do not remember specifically how it ended. But I do remember some of the other characters that Hawkeye will later meet.
Yeah, I do remember that, and in part because, of course, when we saw this originally, we watched this alongside episode 2, Hide and Seek, that came out at the same time, even though for this TV discussion, we're only speaking about the first one.
Yeah, and the other thing that I didn't mention, that I forgot to mention, is that that's brought up anyway, is that Hawkeye does have a hearing problem, and that's something that I didn't quite know before either.
Yeah, I did remember that, and actually, one thing I didn't remember, though, is to the great extent that they showed Rogers the Musical.
Yes, that that was actually fun to watch. But yes, I remember that that part was actually discussed in the first movie. I remember the song that kind of went with it, not details, of course, but I did remember that there was.
Yeah, like I said, I remembered at some point in time that they had showed an extensive part of the musical. I mentally thought it was later, and maybe they showed a different aspect of it later in the series, but I personally cannot quite remember. But I really enjoyed watching the bit of it.
Yeah, so did I. So did I.
Yeah, and even though we haven't really seen musicals per se, I would honestly go see that musical.
So would I. It actually looked kind of amusing. So yes.
Yeah, I mean, Disney, if you're out there, I mean, go ahead and make the musical. I'm sure you'll have a lot of people going to watch it.
Yes, they probably will.
But yeah, but overall, like, what'd you think about this episode?
I really liked the episode. I thought it made sense, which is what you're looking for in a Marvel movie or a Marvel show. And I thought they did a really nice job of introducing Hawkeye and Kate at the same time.
Yeah, and I like that even though, of course, both of them are in this episode, both are focused within it, and of course, the series is about Hawkeye, or at least the existing Hawkeye. I like that this episode was largely dedicated to Kate.
Yeah, yep, that makes a lot of sense because yeah, for character development purposes, I do like that they included that in there because she had a larger part than I expected her to have.
But yes, and even from the very beginning, we don't start off with him. We start off with her, and that's typically like a recurring theme throughout. Like I said, this mini series, but and even though, of course, they get more, I guess, equal treatment, I guess, later down the series. I like that was that we were able to start off with her because obviously we're just now being introduced to her, and I think in this episode was given the task of introducing this character to us fans and making us care about her, and I think it succeeded.
Yeah, I think they succeeded also.
Yeah, and I think one way that they were able to do that is through the opening sequence.
Yep, they did. And you're referring to the theme song, and they did a nice job with the theme song. Not that the tune itself is not necessarily catchy; it's the scenes that kind of go along with it, and they kind of show Kate from a young person, and they show her with her father, and they kind of show how she is as she gets older. She's getting better at the I don't want to say fighting, but the different things she's doing to kind of improve that way. So they show her with the bow and arrow. They show her playing, being a karate student, and maybe judo. I can't remember, but yes, and they show her being a champion at those things.
Yes, and fencing as well.
That's what it is. Yeah.
But yeah, so quite a bit, and of course, primarily we showcase her as a master archer, and so it's fun to sort of see that. And I feel like we have spoken about on our channel in our series, theme songs that are able to deliver a message and tell a story. I mean, even back to our 1960s with the lyrics, like we think of. For instance, like Gilligan's Island, where it tells you everything that you need to know. I feel like this does it, but instead with the graphics.
Yes, and like I said, nice job doing it too.
But yeah, and so, Mom, overall, like, is there anything else that you want to speak about for Hawkeye?
No, I mean the only thing that kind of else that stands out is this all takes place around the holidays, which is one of the reasons that we selected the show. And so it is a holiday movie. I think you need to be a mature audience to watch it. So this is not one for young children, but um, but it's still they. I think it's a series that they did very nicely.
Yes, I definitely agree with that, and so the question always comes down to is, would you watch the series again?
Yes, I would watch it again.
Yeah, I definitely would too. And yeah, and now that we've been a few years removed, I think it would be interesting to see sort of the character dynamics and what we know now, especially with some of the other characters that are introduced throughout this miniseries.
Yeah, especially since we've seen some of the other Marvel mini series that have been on, and so we could kind of see how it all kind of meshes together.
Yeah, and one thing that I think this one did especially well, at least based off the first episode that I can remember, is that it sort of let it be its own identity, that we didn't have to spend every waking moment trying to tie it back to the movie. That at least for this first episode anyway, that it was able to be its own story.
Yeah, it sure was.
But yeah, and we did actually have a little connection as well.
Oh, tell us what's our connection, Brandon?
Yeah, so of course the obvious one is that it's produced by Marvel Studios that makes all the Marvel movies, including the Marvels that we've spoken about. But we do have another one in that the composer Christoph Beck composed the theme for Agatha All Along and for Marvel's competitor with Shazam: Fury of the Gods.
Wow, that's great. Always finding those connections, Brandon.
But yes, and so I did want to ask too. So as we're ending this out, even though, like I said, this is a mini series, which is basically one and done for, like I said, the I believe 6 episodes that they produce. But would you ever be interested in them potentially coming back a few years later and making like a season two?
Oh yeah, I'd love to watch Hawkeye again. Yeah, he's actually one of my favorite Marvel characters. So yes, I'd love for them to bring him back in another season of Hawkeye or some variation of it.
Yeah, and even though this was in 2021, a fun fact is that apparently it took place in 2024.
Oh, that is news to me.
Yeah, I forgot that thanks to Avengers Endgame, since there was a 5 year time jump, that they are all these movies and shows we're watching are all taking place in the future. So it's finally cut up to present.
Yep, it makes me all the more reason to kind of keep watching it.
Yeah, in fact, I believe this week, as of recording this, that they're actually just now putting it on Blu-ray.
Oh wow, wow.
So yeah, so truly, I guess a 2021 show made for 2024.
Yep. Well, well, very futuristic.
But yes, well, Mom, I always love doing this.
I do too, Brandon. Thank you, and thank you to our audience for joining us.
Yes, definitely, and let us know if there's any shows that you want us to cover, while doing our little vlogmas.
Yes, yes, we're trying to do Vlogmas. So thank you so much for joining us.
And we'll see you next time.
All right, have a great day, everybody.
We'll see you soon.
Bye bye.